Well, hey there, everyone. I got a quick question from someone named Ben, and he is about to join up one of my memory trainings for language learning, and he asked me a really interesting question and an important one, which is, what's the credibility of all this? And that is really, really important because I am involved in teaching you about the science of your brain, essentially, and why it is that remembering foreign language vocabulary and phrases is so difficult, and then helping you overcome that. So there are lots and lots of levels of credibility involved in demonstrating why it works and how it works and what it all is supposed to do. But if you're really interested in reading lots of testimonials around this, and you want to hear voices from people like Alex Mullen, world memory champion, and Barbara Oakley, who is the best-selling author of several books on learning, and also she has the biggest course in the internet, really, that has all kinds of learners, called Learning How to Learn. If you haven't taken that course, please do. It's amazing. And so, you can have the people who you can have a wide range of people who give me my street cred, so to speak, in terms of this. My own language learning experience is well discussed on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast. It is so important to understand that what I teach is the memory part of the puzzle, but I also teach a course in this, what I call the Big Five of language learning. And so memory feeds those other parts of the Big Five of language learning, and those parts of the big language learning feed your memory. So it's a perfect circle that we're working here. And we are essentially learning the science of our own memory, how our brain works, and then I'm not really a big fan of the word hack, but we are essentially hacking our brain in order to get words and phrases, vocabulary and phrases, into our long-term memory like that. And the reason why that it works has nothing to do with my brain or your brain. It has to do with the similarities between all brains. And so this is for all people who enjoy the process. So really my job is getting you to enjoy the process, and this is what the Magnetic Memory Method is all about, because it is so much fun. And it's just taking spatial memory, linking it with episodic memory, procedural memory, semantic memory, all these different kinds of memory. We're also using a bit of backward masking, and you can look up all those science terms anytime that you like, and there are ways of discussion in the training itself, but I'm just like, here are the steps, here's what to do, here's how to do it, and you'll create the ultimate credibility for yourself. And the reason why that's ultimately the real science going on here is because I'm teaching you to be a scientist of your brain. So for testimonials, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/testimonials. And the internet is awash with all kinds of responses to what I've done. It's kind of polarizing. And it really comes down to the people who are willing to follow a process and give it a real solid try and experiment, explore, be scientists. So meet the teacher halfway, which is what real education is always about. There is no getting around that. The student and the teacher have to meet halfway, and then the teacher actually will transcend the teacher. You will become your own teacher, right? And this is what all learning is about. So if you wanted to develop fluency, you need to sort of do what I did and what I'm packaging for you. So with German, for example, and just everything, my PhD studies during some real difficult times, and now with Chinese, the brain automatically, like the insular cortex, just creates pain response, right? And my question is always, what should be so painful about this? It's learning. This should be the most exciting, most vibrant thing in the world. So what I needed to figure out for myself was there's this incredibly well-demonstrated, documented world about memory techniques, right? There are people out there who are memorizing entire decks of cards. This is my deck from Beijing that I really love and amazing to practice with. There are people who are doing this in under 2 minutes at that time. now Alex Mullen, who graciously supports my work, he does it under 20 seconds. Okay, so it's just like well documented there. If you need the proof is in the world, right? And then there are all the testimonials, all the people who have taken this for language learning, for math, for medicine, for law, and so forth, and met me halfway, and then become the scientists in the laboratory of their own mind and gotten the results. So that's the real key important point here is that the results come from you, and this training gives you the basis for experiencing it if you meet me halfway. And so I myself, I just looked at German and I thought there's got to be a way to take this well-established memory science, which I'd already been working on and practicing myself in many, many ways, and it's got to be a way to match it to language learning. And with German, I peered deeply into this, had an epiphany moment sitting on a balcony just like this one, except for it was in Berlin instead of Brisbane, where I am now, and I had this fat dictionary right in front of me, and I just thought, there's got to be a way, and it just clicked, and it clicked so deeply and so profoundly that I've basically been just speeding through my own learning ever since. And there's an interview coming out soon with me in German, auf Deutsch, and it was after like a 7-month period of not speaking German. And one of the things that came out of that was that, and I said it at the end of the interview, I was like, wow, we have like a real good demonstration here of just how big my vocabulary is. But you can see that not speaking German after 7 months has had its effect, right? So this is the real thing here, is not just are you memorizing the vocabulary, because it was astonishing to me, and I think that interviewer, Gabriel, agrees that this vocabulary is just like, whoa, over the top. But you got to use the language, right? So it's just real science. It's just so exciting what happens with your memory when you're using it and when you're really, really into this game and you're hacking the system, because I can sit down and memorize up to 100 words or more a day. Not necessarily recommending that, though. Actually not even recommending that, because you can get so much more from just 5 words a day, right? If you do the math, 5 words over the course of a month, if you do what I'm telling you about the big 5 of language learning, making sure that all those activities are feeding your memory and your memory are feeding those activities, this scales. It scales so profoundly, so intricately, so that you're actually building what I call in the training rhizomatic knowledge. And that you can get into, but I mean, that's my own little term for it, and it has its own scientific origins as well, from philosophy of science, history of philosophy of science, and so on. So all kind of intellectual stuff. But at the end of the day, the point is that I couldn't learn German in a class, and I'm not the kind of person who shows up with index cards. I might like to do playing card memorization as a general mental fitness practice and memory practice and so forth, and that skill is not necessary. It's like extracurricular activity in the memory arts. It's a must in competition, but in the memory arts, it's just extracurricular activity. It's like skipping rope to a boxer. The boxer, you see the agility when they're in the ring and they're punching and all that sort of stuff, dodging and so forth. And you don't see the skipping per se, but they have that ability because they have done all that skipping with the rope and so forth. So it's a cool training thing, and it applies. And actually, when I got to Chinese, I had a profound epiphany, even more profound than the one on that park bench, because it was just an amazing thing where cards, in a really interesting way, match up with the Chinese tones. So that is something that's in the training itself. And I'm happy to talk to my students who are doing Chinese to give you more insights about that if you wish. The point is that the evidence, the real evidence that matters, the real street cred that matters, is the stuff that you create for yourself if you're willing to give it a try. So I don't feel so much that, oh man, look at all these testimonials and look at all the support from this, that, and the other person, is nearly as important as you creating your own evidence if you're willing to give this a try. It's why all of the material is guaranteed. I really stand behind that. If it's not for you, no problem. The goal here, as I mentioned, is to actually make it for you, because it's fun. It's amazing. It's just an incredible amount of joy and pleasure, and it's what gets the insular cortex, that brain pain that it creates when you look at something. Like, I'm going to do a live webinar in a while here, and I created this image of the Greek alphabet, and I just said, doesn't that cause your brain a lot of pain just to look at that? And yet Kevin Wax, one of the magnetic memory method students, he said that it just took him a couple hours to memorize the Greek alphabet. We're talking about all the symbols. We're talking about all the sounds of the Greek alphabet. And you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of hours. But really, when you think about it, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to the fact that most people never get past memorizing an alphabet of a language that they need to do when it has all these characters and so forth. And when you think about how long children take forever to learn the alphabet of a language they already are speaking. So if you can just sit down with a skill, a memory skill, and do it that fast, and then be able to get on with words in the language, and then get on with putting those words in phrases, because I show you how to do that all progressively, being a progressionist rather than a perfectionist, because you cannot steer a boat that isn't in the water. So I'm just working to get your boat in the water so you can correct course, and you know how to use these memory techniques, you know how to use them in a systematic and structured way so that you're getting these results, and you can scale it over time so that you're going from, if you need the alphabet, you go from the alphabet to the words. And then you go from the words to the phrases. And then from there, you're just establishing evidence for yourself based on very, very old evidence that's all around in the world, in the science. Read Moonwalking with Einstein by Josh Foer if you like. And that's a cool thing. A lot of people complain about that book, that it doesn't teach you the techniques. I can't really say that, because when I read it, I already do the techniques, so it was like I'm blind to what he is or isn't really teaching there in terms of practical advice, because I'm reading the advice very, very much like from his description of his experience. So it's not fair for me to say whether it teaches the techniques or not. It's great reading, period, no matter where you are in your journey with memory techniques. So the point is, and I'm just so excited that Ben sent this question that I wanted to make a video about it and share the great news for you if you're signing up for one of my courses, training, especially for language learning, is that this works, and it works for reasons that are very, very well documented. There's a lot of numbers we can put on there. Like, we know that if you had no no memory techniques, just with rote learning alone, you're looking at a 45% retention average, right? Actually, not terrible. And that goes up relative to your skills with the practice of rote learning. But with memory techniques, you're looking at 85% to 88% recall just by using a memory technique strategy. Now, this is where the magnetic memory method comes in, because I want to push that to 90, 95%, 98%, 99%, and it all gets to that level based on you getting in that boat and steering your course towards those levels of accuracy. And it doesn't involve a whole bunch of scientific study unless you want it, because that scientific study does add a certain advantage. But if you just want to get straight to the techniques, do this, do this, do this, do this, that is what my training is. And the podcast talks about all these things. It's extracurricular study, let's put it that way. I just want to get you the technique so you can get your boat in the water and you can start to guide it. You can start to experience these boosts in fluency. You can make little missions for yourself and just go, 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 go. So anyway, Ben, I hope that answers your question, and there'll be some links below this video for anyone who wants to see testimonials and so forth. And I really, really appreciate the question. And my own experiences, just to sum it up, when I was going to go to China, and it was amazing to be invited there to go speak at CLI, and just incredible to give a 3-day memory training in China. And I gave myself 3 months to do my best with my own thing, and I went and I sat in front of my father-in-law and asked his permission to marry his daughter in Mandarin, and we had small talk, and it's just been growing ever since. And this is the thing, there are many different ways to learn a language, but what I want to nail down vocabulary and phrases, and I want to do it in a way that's systematic and structured and has a real return on the investment in time and energy, and creates energy, creates enthusiasm. I'm working now on a way to memorize the characters. The initial tests and things that I've done using the magnetic memory method, I have done 5 characters with 100% accuracy after 24 hours and after a full week of not looking at them again, right, with 25 minutes. Now, that's the character, that's the correct tones, that's the meaning, and it's the ability to use it in a sentence. Not to write out a sentence, sorry, but to actually use that new word, because I didn't know the word before, but now I know the word, the characters, the correct tones, and it's just like mind-boggling. Again, I have more experience than many people using these techniques, and there's still some testing to be done, but guided by the magnetic memory method principles that are in the training now, the selection of the words, the actual approach to the words using things like bridging figures and so forth, it's so exciting. It's so exciting, and you're going to find that if you just follow these principles, it unlocks a connection. It makes connections and layers of connections that when you just get it working together, it really is like having a boat in the water and just steering your course. And the big 5 of language learning will be your oars, and you'll just row that boat to success, and it's all guaranteed. So the whole point is yes, Ben, I have used these techniques myself, and I use them all the time, and it's just so incredible. And when I use them for language learning, it creates energy instead of draining it, because I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit there with index cards, with flashcards. And I do some experiments with software. I'm running some trials with software right now, but I just don't like it. I don't find anything interesting in it, and I don't even find the numbers there. It doesn't create the retention that is promised by the software for me. For other people, it does work. There's not going to sit there and deny that flashcards and spaced repetition software doesn't work for other people. It does, and that's fine. But there are a lot of us out there. The brain creates a pain response. Oh my goodness, I have to sit here and press buttons again. It's not really working. And if you are honest about just how well it's working for you and you want an alternative, then magnetic memory method is the way that I am very, very happy to recommend to you, at least to give it a try. It's so much fun, so rewarding, and it is all about making it fun and rewarding, and so that you can actually see the return on investment, so that I'm going to spend 25 minutes, this is what I'm going to get out of it, right? So you might want more than 5 words out of your 25 minutes, and that's totally possible, especially if you're learning a language that's not as complex as Chinese. And for me, there's a way to do that without the characters involved, where I can just speak more, sing a song in Chinese, learn a couple phrases that I don't know, a couple ways of saying things, work on the tones a little bit with the memory angle and so forth. Bottom line, if you want to experience these kinds of things, this is all documented very, very intensely for years and years and years in science. We've got thousands of years of this memory tradition, so you can go back and read guys like Bruno, and you can read all kinds of people. You can get on a phone and dial all the way back to ancient Greece. The texts are with us in many, many cases. And Aristotle on memory. Man, this is just amazing. So you're not even just getting memory techniques and science and so forth and testimonials and yada, yada, yada. You are opening a door to a world that will refresh everything that you think you know about your brain, will unlock the door on accomplishment that you may think is impossible, but actually is happening every day, right now, for thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are just willing to get in a boat, get it in the water, and start using these techniques. So that's my passion, that's my drive. It's the most fulfilling thing in the world to help students achieve with these techniques, to find them, to try them, to help them learn how to guide their ship, because it ultimately is a self-study thing, just like language learning itself. Ultimately, it's your brain. You got to get it in your brain, then you've got to get it into the muscle memory of your mouth, and you've got to get it into the ears of other people, and you've got to get their material into your ears. So I see myself as someone who can help you build the boat, get the boat into water, and guide yourself towards these little islands of fluency. Because fluency is also itself a word, a concept that's fraught with complications, but think about it as islands, different islands of fluency. And if you've got that boat, you can reach those different islands, and then you can go from island to island to island, and those islands get bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes you go back to a smaller one, right? And it's just an amazing, fun experience, and you can then take all that with your memory and apply it to anything you want to learn, and you'll be so much better off for it. So thanks again, Ben. I really appreciate the question. This is Anthony here in the Magnetic Memory Method headquarters in Brisbane. Saturday, gonna go out with my wife after lunch here, and just wanted to pop on real quick to answer that question for you, and I really appreciate it. So thanks everybody, and until we speak again, honor your memory. It's the most beautiful thing, and it exists in the now. And the more that you have your memory working on your side, the better the now becomes. So thank you very much again, and until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic.